about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened.
Don't come here looking at us for anti-Semitism. Look in your own damn mirror before you ever come over here.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
Omar will not be silenced.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Congressman Omar, I am so sorry,
has expired.
That our country is failing you today through this chamber.
Democrats are apoplectic after the House voted to expel Congresswoman Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee. Republicans fulfilling their vow to hold her accountable for a series of anti-Semitic comments. The White House standing by Omar.
Congresswoman Omar is a highly respected member of Congress. She has apologized for her comments she made in the past. The way that we see this, it's a political stunt, much like House Republicans' unjust removal of other leading Democrats from key committees in recent weeks, and it is a disservice to the American people.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says the move was not about partisan politics and is calling for a fair process going forward.
I think what we should do is put into the rules. There is a code of conduct here, so if there is a concern, it's not tit for tat, but I think in moving forward, every single member of Congress has a responsibility to how they carry themselves. Let me finish the question. And it's responsible upon us to let them know what that is, and then what is the due process in a bipartisan way that we can deal with it.
Cassie Smedley, COIN Vice President. Jose Aristimuño, former DNC Deputy Press Secretary. Great to see you both. Cassie, I'll come to you. This is day 2 of this, and Democrats, as you saw, are very angry.
Well, if it's a day that ends in Y, the squad is out there launching divisive attacks in a dramatic fashion. And by the way, Eric Swalwell, as I think we all know, is alleged to have had an affair with a Chinese spy, so he might want to sit this one out. But I think Kevin McCarthy is doing the right thing, not only punishing a member for a series of disrespectful comments, but also setting up a process going forward so that this can't be politicized in the future, to hold members accountable. And if they are going to make comments like these, that then they go before a panel and they've adjusted the House rules, or they're going to adjust the House rules, so that they'll be investigated by their peers and a decision will be made. So that's the right thing to do going forward, not what the Democrats did last Congress, where they just willy-nilly removed Republicans from committees that they just didn't like.
Yeah, you're talking specifically, too, about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and there was a lot of consternation over how that would play out in the future, Jose. So this idea of having a bipartisan way forward is nothing but positive for both parties, I would imagine. Let's get into, though, just how angry these women were. And you saw Eric Swalwell mixed in there, too. This week, Ilhan Omar has gone on other networks and said this was about race. But Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell are not people of color that we know of. So, you know, you're seeing some victimization along the way here as well.
Look, you know, I don't always agree with Alexandria Ocasio, but I will agree with her in the sense that when her life was threatened by Republicans, by a member of the Republican Party, where were other Republicans? Where was the punishment? So we didn't see that coming. I do think it's important, I'll agree with Kevin McCarthy, that we need to work with Democrats to put forth standard conduct. So, because, you know, it gets messy in Congress when it comes to this sort of processes. So I think that's important, but I don't see the removal of Representative Omar as a cause for policy. I think it's actually political revenge, and it's very clear.
Well, it definitely doesn't help a divided country for her to say that she's a victim because of race and other reasons, when you've just named a couple that are possibilities as well. And of course, anti-Semitic speech is the thing that's above, overarching all of it. With just days until President Biden's State of the Union speech, the Wall Street Journal with this warning: our political parties are struggling. The Democrats need normality. The Republicans need coherence. They both need to pull themselves out of the 20th century. And it appears Americans agree. Look at this new Fox polling. Political divisions come in third among voters' top issues. 78% say they are extremely or very concerned about it. Let's harken back to President Biden's repeated promises.
My whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. As I said in this campaign, I will be president for all Americans. If I'm elected president, you will not hear me race baiting, you'll not hear me dividing, you'll hear me trying to unify. And so, folks, the third reason I ran was to unify the country, to unify it.
A new op-ed argues Biden never even tried to unify or to be the unity president. It cites the ways he demonized those opposed to the left's agenda. Reverse order now. Jose, I'll come to you first. The president had majorities in the Senate and the House. He had the White House. He still does. Why couldn't he lead with more unity? What went wrong for him?
Well, I think the Republican Party, unfortunately,
they were not in the majority.
Party
he had it all.
That it used to be. Well, but let me say this. Democrats were in the majority, and that's why we got past infrastructure bill, Inflation Reduction Act, veterans, a bill to help veterans, and you name it. So this president, and let me say this
and
as a former Obama official.
some of those were bipartisan.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Biden has passed more bills than Trump and President Barack Obama. So this president will go into history as a uniter when it comes to bills being passed. I can say, and there's been some Republicans that have supported these bills, not to the numbers that I would like to see.
Look,
but
the
it's been some
country's
progress.
very worried that they can't get along. They're not imagining that. So why can't he pull people together? I hear the legislation. I hear the policy. He ought to be able to do it then. But he's not. Cassie.
Yeah, and to Jose's point, if President Biden was able to pass all of these bills, that's because Republicans were the ones who pushed to have this bipartisan approach and to get something done. But to this poll's point, Harris, I think what we're hearing from the American people is they're tired of the antics in Washington. I mean, to our conversation just a couple minutes ago about what Congress is spending their time on instead of issues that really work for the American people. And the solutions then probably aren't in Washington. Just this week, you saw Governor DeSantis push back on a woke curriculum and got it changed. The company I work for, Coin, it's where people can spend their money that matches their values as opposed to having to deal with all of these woke policies all of the time. The American people are fighting and begging for leaders who will work on the issues that are most important to them and their values. And we're not hearing that right now from President Biden or frankly, from Congress in Washington.
Jose, Cassie, always great to have you in focus on the Power Panel. Good to see you both. Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.